So, Tabloid Tuesday, we're here with Chris Wilkinson, and we're in a hotel, the Britannia Hotel, and Chris, what do you think of the place?
Well, it's got orange carpets that look as though they've come out of the 1970s. There's marble on the wall, which looks as though it was reclaimed from the original World Trade Center.
And it's not polished either, is it? It's not polished marble.
This has never been polished. It's got sort of what I think it would consider itself
dull art, essentially.
Dull art, yeah, and edgy lamps above a pool table.
They're not edgy, they're cheap lamps.
Well,
they're crooked as well.
What they think are edgy lamps. There's a slot machine that's dated from the 1980s, obviously.
Right, so shall we get on with this?
And the place is full of old people.
It is full of old people.
Yeah.
So let's just try and summon some sort of joy out of this. So, main headline. Eastenders Danny, bring jihadi bride home. So this is the story that Danny Dyer wants to bring the jihadi schoolgirl home because he wants to understand what led her to her radical Islamic beliefs.
I think there's enough of an understanding already, particularly when organisations such as the BBC broadcast, in part, the killing of homosexuals by ISIS when they throw them over bridges and things like that.
How does that explain how she was radicalised in Britain?
Well, it gives you an idea as to the kind of ideology that this person espouses.
Radical Islam.
Well, yeah. So, really, what is there to understand other than that it is literally the worst thing in the world?
And you know her father was caught at a celebration marking the anniversary of Lee Rigby. So she's not going back into a de-radicalised community, is she, Chris? Do you think?
Where is she from? Is it...
I don't know.
Is it Tower Hamlets?
It doesn't say, and I highly doubt the Daily Star is going to give us such vital information. No, it doesn't.
No. So really, I mean, the question then becomes, why has this person been reintroduced to essentially a radical...
Speak up. Don't make your voice as depressing as the atmosphere here, Chris.
It's really getting me down. Basically, why is she being allowed to return to an environment where she will be subject to radical elements?
Only to rediscover her radical philosophy again.
Yeah.
And well, she even said that she doesn't regret doing what she did anyway. So there's no sort of... you can't really use she was a child argument, can you, really, there?
No, I mean, for all the stuff that Eastenders does, it doesn't touch upon things like this.
You don't watch it?
Well...
You don't watch it?
I watch the fights.
Or you watch compilations on YouTube?
I do.
Mainly consistent of Phil Mitchell, I'm suspecting.
Yeah, it is.
That's not really the whole show, though, is it? It'd probably be good if it was, actually, but...
It would be better. It would at least give it some sort of narrative drive.
Well, often in EastEnders, the way that they focus around certain characters and have a narrative that spreads over months. So at the moment, it's the actress Tamsin Houthwaite, and it's focusing around her character murdering an Irishman, or thinking she's murdered an Irishman who was trapping her into a hideous marriage where it was a scam. I think he was a bigamist as well.
What is there to understand about this situation, though? What I find slightly disturbing is that on the same page as this story, there is a picture of Kim Kardashian with a...
And she has her breasts...
Yeah.
How would you describe her breasts in this picture?
It's a revealing photo.
Is it revealing in a good way or a bad way?
I
would say it was a good way.
Yeah, but it depends on the context, because in this sense it's a juxtaposition between the extremism of radical Islam and the extremism of Kim Kardashian's breasts.
And actually sort of the nefariousness of Western society, which radical Islam despises, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like... The one thing I would also comment about it is that they're both wearing black.
Yeah, and also we were flicking through this before we come on air, so to speak, and there is a few repetitions of this where something quite serious is juxtaposed against some sort of flirty celebrity, not always a woman necessarily. We'll get through to that later on. So the next story, we don't normally touch on politics in this show, but we're going to do it for this one because I've got a funny story, or funny question. Well, not funny, but interesting. So the 7 Labour MPs have quit the party to form their own independent group in protest of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party and various other reasons. So we have Anne Coffey, Angela Smith, Chris Leslie, Chuka Ramuna, Mike Gapes, Luciana Berger, or Berger, she says, and Gary Shuker. Now, out of those 7, which one would you prefer to have in bed with you?
Luciana Berger.
That's a fantastic answer, and the correct answer. Well done, Christopher.
Is she already pregnant? She looks already...
Yeah, she's got a baby bump, yeah. She's got a baby bump, yeah, so good for her. But nice to have some sort of joy, as opposed to all the hate that she faces on Twitter. And it is, I don't know if you've seen it, but it is quite... horrendous.
She looks tired, like you can see the strain on her face. I mean, it's not just due to the baby, I'd imagine.
I've noticed that because only 3 or 4 years ago she looked a lot more fresh-faced than this. She looks, well, almost defeatist, but this is the sort of look of, this is her last hope for herself in politics. Not to insult her career, she does a lot of great work with mental health, but looks sort of defeatist still. But she has been chosen as the face of the Labour 7, or the ex-Labour 7, which probably has a lot to do with her progressive attitudes and the fact she's a bit of a MILF. Do you not think, Chris?
Yes, but the only thing is, I would say about this independent group, it seems to be led already by Chuka Ramuna, even though the picture suggests that he's more of a background character. The picture depicts him.
But all the media conferences have had Luciana Berger.
Not from what I've seen.
Oh right, well,
most have been Chuka Ramuna.
Well, that is a shame because he has a bald head, doesn't he? But you have ginger hair, don't you?
Yes.
Right.
That's correct.
So, who do you think should lead this group, or who's the best face to lead it? Because I think Chris Leslie's a non-entity, isn't he? Really.
Well, that's kind of who I wanted to lead the group, actually. I just thought that it would have given it such irrelevance to have...
Oh, in terms of if you wanted it to fail,
yeah,
that would be... But right, okay, I see where you're coming from. So, next story. Prison for HIV pervert. And I'm watching my P's and my S's because I've noticed that they're not coming through on the microphone very well, and they're quite irritating to hear with headphones, so I am trying. A notorious sex offender once jailed for inflicting an 82-year-old woman with a HIV virus is back behind bars. James DeFalco, 57, flouted a court order by intimately kissing his latest victim without telling her about his illness.
I think this sort of follows on from previous weeks where we've covered paedophiles and people with sexually transmitted diseases. Right. I mean, I don't know about like an epidemic of AIDS or anything, but there seems to be an epidemic of these kinds of stories in the tabloid papers that we've been reviewing.
Yeah, there's nothing to really suggest that this is an outbreak of the disease itself, more that the tabloids And definitely the Daily Star are obsessed with this.
There is a bit of an age gap, I think it's fair to say.
How do you mean?
Well, 57 versus 82, is it?
Yeah.
That's like definitely a generation by anyone's standards.
Yeah. What do you think he was trying to get out of deliberately infecting an elderly woman with HIV?
Her pension?
Her pension, but it doesn't mention a relationship or any intimacy or long-term intimacy.
Well, that's only from what we know. This is, after all, like, what?
A snippet.
Yeah, 3 inches of a...
And you'd know how long 3 inches is just at a glance.
Yes, because it's about half the size of something else. I know.
Your pint glass?
I was thinking more of a tumbler.
Right, okay, right. So we're going to...
yeah, possibly a pint glass as well.
Yeah, okay, so we're moving on to the next story. Page 9. And it's a story about...
It should be said that this is the first occasion where we've been doing Tabloid Tuesday with some assistance.
Oh, yeah, with alcohol, but we've hardly started, really, have we? I mean,
it's mostly just a sort of buffer from the depression.
Misery and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the surroundings.
Sort of like Chernobyl about 10 seconds before it exploded. That's what it sort of reminds me of in here.
Well, I mean, we're seeing orange, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. So, Secrets of the Danger Code, a list of secret slang terms and acronyms used by teenagers on the internet has been revealed. The aim is to help parents spot telltale signs of online grooming and abuse. So let's look at some of these phrases. They include the letters CU46, meaning see you for sex. LMIRL, which stands for let's meet in real life, and NIFOC, which is naked in front of a computer. Others including daddy, an affectionate partner, and down in the DM, which is short for an upcoming sexual hookup. I've never ever heard of any of these.
I thought DM stood for direct message.
Right.
What does it actually stand for?
I don't know. It doesn't actually say, and I don't think the journalist, or quote unquote journalist, knows either, Chris. But have you ever encountered any of those?
I know, like, IRL is in real life.
But the ones specifically written on the paper there?
No, I've never seen these. I've never heard of them. To be honest, I don't know how...
You don't use them on any of your chat rooms that you go on?
Well, I don't use many chat rooms. Like, there's a missing episodes forum for old television shows that I go on, but I don't think that I would ever need to sort of be naked in front of a computer when I'm talking about reels of old film.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Fact, it's somewhat quite disturbing that the journalist actually knew what teenagers...
Well, it's investigative journalism, isn't it, Chris?
So in other words, he's a paedophile.
Well, no.
How can
I'll tell you an interesting story, Chris. I went on a popular chat room, sort of interactive chat room, which is called Habbo Hotel. And me and my friend posed as...
I used to play.
Yeah, well, yeah, I bet you will. I bet you did. Because me and my friend Alex Dean posed as underage teenage girls on there, and asked for pictures and phone numbers and Snapchat accounts, and we were inundated in our inbox with requests from some men that were quite ripe in their age, and it was vile. If only we'd known how to operate on it. The fact is that there was just too many to even bust. It was so overwhelming. But this world exists. What do you reckon to that?
Well, it's not a world that I've ever entered.
But you just said you had a Habbo Hotel account, so you must be aware of this.
Like when I was 11 or 12.
Oh, so you've been groomed?
Well, no, because I never
right.
received
Oh,
any
I didn't know where you were going with that.
No, I didn't receive any.
So the next one must be a bit of a loner then, because everyone talks on there, don't they?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's like Club Penguin as well.
Okay, so this one is snowflakes blast racist face masks. So Twitter fury over black up masks. Snowflakes have been mocked for claiming charcoal face masks are racist. And actually they look like black avocado in terms of texture, don't they? Like a black avocado.
if someone were to have received very serious skin burns, that is pretty much what we're looking at in the picture. I don't really think that this is... How can it be racist?
No, well, this is the point I was thinking, is that... let me just ask you a general knowledge question. What colour, Chris, is charcoal?
Black.
So how are they supposed to disguise that? Because everyone knows you add charcoal to anything, it ruins the colour, it goes black. You know, it's soot, essentially, isn't it?
So is a coal fire racist for not having white coal in it?
Well, that's where the logic seems to unfold. And actually, are you a fan of Martin Clunes?
Yeah.
Yeah. You like the show Men Behaving Badly?
I adore it.
It's a great show. Well, he has claimed that comedy is too PC, and such a show would never get made in the modern day because of its sort of sexist jokes. But they are jokes. You know, it's a lad's show, I suppose, in that sense.
I didn't really detect much sexism in it. There was an issue with the writer, because I looked at all the behind-the-scenes documentaries. The writer didn't know how to write female characters, so the people who played the female characters actually told him what women would say in certain situations.
Do you think that gave the show a sense of authenticity?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
I think you can sense that because they do really seem to be acting off the cuff at some moments, and it is quite nice to watch. Yeah,
the whole lot could have been ad-libbed, and it would still have been Men Behaving Badly.
The one thing I never saw, because we watch it retrospectively, and we probably remember as children when it was on, and I do remember watching it when it was still new, sort of. But obviously we don't appreciate it the same way we do now we're older. Was the Christmas episode, which I never saw, which featured Kylie Minogue, because they always used to talk about Kylie Minogue, didn't they?
No, that was the comic relief episode.
Was it a comic relief?
Yeah.
Is it available? I was just curious.
I've got the box set of everything, so
and it is in the box set.
I think it's in the box set. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So do you have any...
That was the only time where it actually descended into unrealistic behaviour, because they smashed through a wall at the end in pursuit of Kylie Minogue.
Oh, but that was a bit of a joke to go the extra mile for for comic relief and that. Yeah. I've just found the Loch Ness story. So Nessie faces a terrorist grilling. We'll get onto that story later after this. The Loch Ness Monster could be at risk from earthquakes and terrorists. Locals fear a backlash over plans for a hydroelectricity plant that would pump water from the loch up to a new reservoir. They say it could harm wildlife, increase noise levels, and become a target for terrorists. So right off the bat, do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster? Because you do believe in 9/11 conspiracies. So I have to ask every single wacko theory. I have to check. You know,
there's a sort of 9/11 theme to this episode, isn't there?
Well, you made the World Trade Center comparison. This is about terrorism in Scotland.
I don't really think... No, I don't. I don't think there's evidence for...
Well, there's a picture there in the paper. Yeah. You can't disagree with that, Chris.
That could have been done anywhere.
Come on, you cunt. There's a picture there, look.
Yeah, but that could have been done anywhere, and that could have been in a pond in...
Japan.
Yeah.
Where would you not find the Loch Ness Monster?
Anywhere other than the Loch Ness.
So you're saying it exists?
Well, no, because there's no evidence for its existence apart from one or two photos, which could very well have been faked.
But an actual architect for the new hydroelectric power station says they'll have to build a monster grill that will prevent the intrusion of the monster into the power station.
Well, if you drain the lake or the loch,
but he's a serious person. He's an architect for the new station. He's not a conspiracy theorist, and he is acknowledging the existence. It does say it there. Look,
yeah.
Peter Tuck said. Peter Tuck.
To be honest, I don't know what research they've done. I don't know what investigations they've made.
Well, it'll be a huge electricity firm, so it's probably quite a lot.
So are they essentially going to use the monster to power their hydroelectric
No, they're
dam?
saying they're building a grill so it doesn't get into the hydroelectric dam. So it must exist.
Well,
surely.
Well,
even your 9/11 theory is more far-fetched than this. Or should we not get into that until another time? Will we dedicate a serious half hour to talking about the September 11 attacks.
Well,
It's up to you.
You can do whatever you want in a future episode, maybe.
Okay.
But
Well, let's go on to plunge tragedy. An elderly woman was quizzed on suspicion of aiding and abetting suicide after a body was found at the bottom of cliffs. The victim was 74 years old. The police said a 73-year-old woman from Westbury, Wiltshire, had been questioned on suspicion of aiding or abetting suicide. Now this I've never heard of a story like this where it's been two women of such old age.
it does seem a little bit far-fetched, yes. To be honest, I mean, there's no proof that it was suicide. This, by way of comparison to the other columns, is about 1.5 inches. It's possibly near 2 inches.
Well, it says it was a suicide, but it's the suspicion of if she aided and abetted it.
But there's not enough.
Chris Wilkinson.
There's not enough information there at all to have a view on that.
Do you think it's strange that of such an age people would commit suicide?
No, I don't. I think there was a case of if you know the old ITV sitcom or whatever, On the Buses.
Yeah.
The character of Jack,
Yeah.
played by Bob Grant.
Yeah.
Well, Bob Grant committed suicide in his 70s, so
right.
it's not actually unheard of.
But he was in On the Buses though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit different there.
In what sense? I mean, like,
They weren't on the Buses, those two women.
well, they are older women.
Yeah, but they weren't on the Buses, so it is a little bit different.
Not on the TV series, but they have definitely used buses.
Well, possibly.
Yeah.
So
So the connection there is buses, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you make nefarious connections all the time, don't you?
Hardly nefarious, but okay.
Gruffalo is minted. A set of 50p coins has been... I think I've repeated myself saying that word twice in this episode. I'm not sure. No, not minted. Nefarious. And now I've said it 3 times.
Yeah.
A set of 50p coins has been released by the Royal Mint to celebrate the 20th anniversary of literary monster The Gruffalo. Author Julia Donaldson said, "I can't believe it has been 20 years since The Gruffalo was first published."
I've got a collection of 50p's and £2 coins that have rare designs on them. The only thing is that they're uncommon. They're not super rare.
Which ones are they, Chris?
There's a Brunel one. One of the £2 ones is a London Underground £2 coin. There's a Peter Rabbit 50p coin.
They're worth fuck all.
Yeah, I know. But I'm still trying to make the collection up.
Oh, so you're just doing it to collect, not to sell on?
Yeah.
Because essentially you have to have absolute mint condition for them to be worth
Yeah,
anything
they're
to
not.
sell
They're
on.
circulated coins, so...
Yeah. They're worth nothing, really.
Yeah. I find it really quite bad as well that there's news stories going around that says... like people can sell old coins.
Buy papers like this, as it happens.
Yeah, they can sell like these sorts of coins with particular designs on for thousands of pounds, even though they can't.
No, because it's usually a mint in there or something they hide in the store, and it's never quite the same. So a man you really, really don't like, as it happens, Chris. Yeah. It's Edward Heath. Kid sex claims Nick is in dock. The man known as Nick, whose allegations sparked the Westminster sex abuse investigation, has denied perverting the course of justice and fraud. Carl Beach, 51, faced the judge at Newcastle Crown Court by a video link yesterday. Beach pleaded not guilty to 12 charges of perverting the course of justice and 1 of fraud. The charges relate to claims that he made that former Prime Minister Edward Heath, ex-Home Secretary Leon Britton, and others that were part of a VIP child sex ring, and that 3 boys were murdered. Police launched a major inquiry, but no one was arrested. Wearing a light blue t-shirt and sporting a thick greying beard, Beach, flanked by his solicitor, spoke only to confirm his identity and to enter his not guilty pleas. At a previous hearing in December, the judge lifted a reporting restriction which prevented the media from identifying the defendant. Judge Paul Sloan remanded Beach in custody to face trial in Newcastle on May the 7th last year.
I think it's all explained there, to be perfect.
Oh, no, this year.
Yeah. So it's all explained there. Ted Heath is literally an embarrassment and a disgrace. He was pretty much at the heart of everything that went on with the Savile sex abuse scandals and everything like that.
Well, please elaborate.
He was the first person to cover it up massively.
How do you know?
Because the allegations started around the time he became Prime Minister.
Right.
So he was the first one. Also, Margaret Thatcher had a very unusually close relationship to Jimmy Savile as well.
Well, that's when he ascended to his highest point of dominance, wasn't it, in Broadmoor during the 1980s? But also, this does coalesce sort of with his fame. So, to blame it all on Ted Heath, do you think that's inaccurate, or do you think that's wrong, or do you reckon Ted Heath himself was a paedophile?
Yeah, I do believe Ted Heath was a paedophile.
On what grounds?
There's a person called Ben Fellows. If you look him up on YouTube or something like that, you hear testimony from him. It's relating to all these sexual abuse scandals and things like that. I think he was a very peculiar person, I think, as well, to get David Icke into this. David Icke had a particularly weird experience with Ted Heath. He described once being sort of scanned by him, rather in an alien-esque way.
What, like in an MRI scanner sort of thing? 'Cause that's what I'm thinking. You said alien, so...
Well...
What do you mean by scanned?
As though his eyes just went up and down his body slowly to assess him. That's what I mean.
All right, yeah.
Funny. But that his eyes went completely black as that happened.
That does sound a little bit more like a stretch of the imagination. Like that sounds like something you'd find in a novel or something, doesn't it? But again,
I mean, it could have been, but the fact is there's weird goings on behind him, and he was the worst Prime Minister we've ever had.
Fishing crews off the Dorset coast have been accused by police of deliberately snagging their nets on a new oil rig in a bid to claim compensation.
Grow up. I mean...
Grow up.
I mean,
it was classic. It's like those people that jump back on cars or roll scooters into the front of cars to get compensation, isn't it?
Yes, it's exactly the same. It's just that it's now infecting the shipping industry.
Well, can I just make a comment, and you may sympathise with this as someone that wants to leave the European Union, is that the profits of fishing must be so small that it actually warrants going to the effort of going out to sea to snag your net on an oil rig in order to get money, because fishing must make you such little money.
The only reason why that is the case...
Thanks to the Common Fisheries Policy.
Yeah, is because of the Common Fisheries Policy. We have to put back most of the things that we catch because of fishing quotas that prevent certain types of fish from being overfished.
So are you saying that we are now destroying ourselves by engaging in frivolous lawsuits like this just in order to make ends meet?
Yes.
Isn't that a sad way to go, do you think, Chris?
We should sit tight and wait until March 29th.
And what do you think will happen then?
Well, hopefully we can get a push to obviously leave the Common Agricultural Policy, reclaim essentially the fishing waters, and therefore...
Yeah, we've all heard this before. Let's just move on to...
Turn a profit for the fishing industry. Then we could avoid
Oh, come on, everyone's heard this.
Snagging
Right.
nets on oil rigs.
Right, okay, that's correct to go down in history. So NatWest sorry for punch threat. NatWest has apologised after a customer who applied for a loan was told all vegans should be punched in the face.
I mean,
Chris Wilkinson.
I'm surprisingly sympathetic to this person because I don't like vegan food.
Is it appropriate to say something like that to a customer?
It could have been said as a joke, and
it wasn't said as a joke.
Well, it could have been misinterpreted.
It wasn't misinterpreted because the person because it explains further on, if you bother to read it, that the woman was drawing chalk vegan slogans outside this bank clerk's house, and that he responded it wasn't a joke. He sort of meant it because he'd found her to be a menace.
So this is like an extremist vegan, essentially.
Well, an extremist NatWest employee as well, it would seem.
Yeah. To be honest, I mean,
When East meets West.
Well, I mean, I don't know why you would go to such an extent, certainly in a professional capacity.
Change your tune.
Well, you know, I mean, I've got a personal view and then there's a professional view.
What is Chris Wilkinson's view?
I don't really sympathise with vegans. I don't like what they're trying to do. Some of them are sort of ecological terrorists.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if I like the taste of meat, then I'll eat it.
Right.
And they can't tell me otherwise.
All right, fair enough. So just remember that, and then we'll look at the headline. So, wedge shame inspired mum. A determined mum of 2 has shed nearly 8 stone after getting stuck on a roller coaster at Alton Towers.
What, so it wasn't actually the ride that caused us to lose 8 stone in weight?
No, it was... I think what it explains is she got wedged between, you know, the support thing that actually holds you in the seat. Because I don't know if you've seen those videos online, especially those giant bungee ball things, and people, like fat people sort of fall out of them, don't they?
Yeah.
So that had inspired her to lose weight. If it was me, and I don't know about yourself, but if I got to that size, I'd start considering losing weight. It wouldn't take that amount of shame and stupidity, or active stupidity on my behalf to think, now I need to lose weight. I mean, surely you'd be running out of breath walking up the stairs to the roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think, what was the trigger for her losing weight? Was it the fact that she couldn't fit into the ride, or was it the fact that she realised that it was too much and that something needed to be done? Because
what do you mean it was too much?
Like her weight was like, she was too heavy and too grotesque.
Grotesque? Jesus Christ. Right, so we're going to close with a feature we introduced in the last episode, which, if we had any viewers, I would say went down well with them, but we don't. Yeah. So we're going to move on to...
It went down well with the live studio audience that we had last week.
Yeah, Chris's star sign. So you are, just to confirm, because we didn't actually, I don't think we disclosed this accurately on air last time. What star sign are you?
I am Aries.
Okay. So...
And this is by the same psychic person who was in the previous paper. This is Russell Grant again.
And he looks like a fat darts player who's dressed up to play snooker while drunk. And
he looks like
a fat old man in a black shirt and a white tie. Never looks good, does it?
He looks like a caravan park entertainer.
He does. Yeah, that is a fantastic analogy, Chris. Well done, Chris Wilkinson. So I'm going to read it. I don't want you to sort of read it because it has to be mystical and amazing. So, Aries, a change of roles will make your work or family life more interesting. You'll be asked to take over another person's responsibilities, and it will feel good to be needed. As it is, you are growing tired of the same old routine, and this is a chance to make changes. 0905 789 3801.
I think that I've been called up to do a bit of leafleting again, so I don't exactly understand how this is
for the BNP.
No, it's not for the BNP.
It's
for local events in Newark.
I got confused. Sorry.
It's for local events in Newark, but basically,
lynch mob.
Well, no, I mean it is nice to be needed, but then again, I've been employed by these people before to do previous jobs, so it's not unexpected. And I'm certainly not taking over the responsibility of anyone else. So I think that this star sign this week is just wrong, or not very relevant.
Okay, should we just pick a random one to see if you think it's relevant? So I'll pick Gemini. Okay. Someone is throwing their weight around. You aren't the type of person who lets other people make use of you, but you are the kind of person that makes other people make use of you. Be ready to refuse their next demand. If you fancy spending cash you just took out a loan at Barclays, think about buying something that boosts your well-being.
It was an extended overdraft.
Why did you get the extended overdraft, Chris?
Because I've gone bankrupt.
And why is that? Is it because you took out you renting a flat that is ridiculously expensive for the tiny size it is?
Yeah, but it's in a very convenient location.
Well, there's convenient locations that are far cheaper.
Yeah, but you have to get buses to get around, and I don't.
Yeah,
really
and
wanna do
it's
that.
£200. It's £200 a year for that bus pass.
Yeah.
So you've done fucked up, haven't you? Really?
Possibly.
Concede, Chris. Concede,
Well,
Chris.
no, like I haven't finished university yet, and they're not. The bailiffs aren't knocking at my door, so
Isn't it a pretty low moment where that's the sort of thing you want from life, that the bailiffs aren't on your door? Unless you want them to come in and rape you. I mean, just be honest.
that sort of links into the story of last week with the motion bed or whatever it was to try and get rapist burglars.
So actually, a week on, you've conceded that I won that argument, that my idea of some sort of bed that has a self-defense capacity is useful.
In this very particular circumstance, which only affects...
It's not a particular circumstance. Bailiffs are clearing out loads of houses, and it also affects you.
Well, there's not really much to clear out of my place because, as you said, it was minimalist.
What about your girlfriend? Clear her out.
Why would it clear her out? She's not...
Well, they might sell her into modern slavery, you know. This shit happens, Chris. Click of a finger.
Well.
You're gone. You're in Thailand making Gap shirts.
To be honest, I mean, it'd be nice to get out of the country for a bit.
Well, just as the sad, echoey sound of Cyndi Lauper echoes through this large bar room, we've just seen Chris Wilkinson's true colours, as we used to see Cyndi Lauper's. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
To die.